In January 2017, an 86-year-old man handed over the keys to the most exciting sport on Earth. His name was Bernie Ecclestone. For 40 years, he had run Formula One like a private members club, and his final defining act as its ruler was this: he banned it from the internet. No race highlights on YouTube, no paddock footage on social media. Drivers received legal letters for posting clips they had filmed themselves. He once said, and this is a real quote, that he wasn't interested in young fans because, in his words, most of them haven't got any money. Then Liberty Media walked in, and every single thing about this sport changed. 826 million fans. $3.9 billion in annual revenue. A billion-dollar alliance with the world's most powerful luxury house. And a fan base that is 42% women, up from 8% just 7 years ago. This is the story of how one sport didn't just survive the digital age, it reverse-engineered it. Consider the scale of what Formula One is today. Not to impress, but because the numbers are, by any honest measure, disorienting. 826 million people followed this sport in 2024. That is nearly twice the combined population of Europe.
The average Formula One fan is 32 years old. 43% of the entire fan base is under 35. In 2017, Formula One generated $1.8 billion in revenue. Last year, that number stood at $3.9 billion. The sport more than doubled in under a decade. Every team is now valued above $1 billion. Nations are forming orderly queues to host future Grand Prix. Luxury houses, fashion brands, and film studios are competing openly, expensively, to attach themselves to the sport. None of this was inevitable. None of it was even probable as recently as 8 years ago. To understand how it happened, you have to go back to the man who, for 4 decades, made absolutely certain it couldn't. Bernie Ecclestone ran Formula One's commercial operation for 40 years. He built it into a global television property. He negotiated the agreements that placed it on screens in every country on Earth. By any measure, he was one of the most formidable sports promoters in history. And then the internet arrived. And Bernie Ecclestone decided the internet was simply not his problem. Race highlights were blocked on YouTube. Teams were forbidden from filming inside the paddock. Drivers who posted their own content received formal legal notices from the sports commercial office. Lewis Hamilton, the most decorated driver in the history of Formula One, was sent a stack of them. Ecclestone's reasoning was consistent, if not correct. Digital content would eat into television rights, and television rights were where the money lived. The consequence was that the most exciting motorsport on Earth was also, functionally, invisible to anyone who wasn't already watching it on a legacy broadcast deal. In 2016, the year before Liberty Media arrived, Formula One's global television viewership had fallen 40% from its 2008 peak. An entire generation of potential fans had grown up and moved on, never having been given a reason to look. Then, in January 2017, Liberty Media completed its $8 billion acquisition. Ecclestone was out. And the door, the one he had spent a decade nailing shut, was at last opened. Liberty Media's first move was almost embarrassingly straightforward. They let people in. Teams could film. Drivers could post. Race highlights went up on YouTube the moment the checkered flag fell. The second move was Netflix. In 2019, Drive to Survive launched, a behind-the-scenes documentary series built around the human stories inside the sport, the rivalries, the failures, the personalities that broadcast television had never been permitted to show. The show didn't simply grow the audience. It changed who the audience was. Nearly half of Drive to Survive's viewers were women. A third were between 18 and 29. This was not the Formula One demographic of the previous 30 years. What the show built was not just a fan base, it built a community. Content creators, podcasters, fan accounts across every language and every platform, constructing an entire ecosystem around a sport they had, finally, been given permission to care about. The data behind this shift is unambiguous. Ticket purchasing for the Australian Grand Prix, the season opening race, used to run at 75% male, 25% female. After Drive to Survive, that split moved to 60-40. The average age of a Formula One fan dropped from 44 to 32. Today, there are an estimated 71 million Americans who have never watched a single race, but know exactly who Lando Norris is. McLaren CEO Zak Brown, speaking in 2024, described what the sport had become. It had found a female audience, a younger audience, a North American audience, and, he said, they were only just getting started. The cars hadn't changed. The racing hadn't changed. What had changed was the permission to tell the story around it. And the story, it turned out, was the product all along. By 2025, the numbers had crossed into territory that demanded a different vocabulary entirely. Women now account for 42% of Formula One's total fan base, up from 8% in 2017. Women make up 3 out of every 4 new fans the sport is adding. This is not a minor demographic adjustment. This is a sport that became something categorically different. The fashion industry noticed. The film industry noticed. And then, in late 2024, the most powerful luxury group on the planet decided to make it official. LVMH, the conglomerate behind Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, and Tag Heuer, signed a 10-year partnership with Formula One valued at $1.1 billion. From the 2025 season, Louis Vuitton became the title sponsor of the season opening race in Melbourne. Moet Hennessy Champagne sits on the podium at every Grand Prix. Tag Heuer is the official timekeeper. The deal was described internally as the convergence of 2 worlds that had been running in parallel for decades, luxury and speed, finally deciding they were, in fact, the same thing. And then came the film. In June 2025, Formula One, the movie, opened in cinemas worldwide. Directed by Joseph Kosinski, who made Top Gun: Maverick, co-produced by Lewis Hamilton, shot inside actual race weekends with real teams on the live grid. It grossed over $630 million globally. It became the highest-grossing original film of the year. In a marketplace dominated by sequels, remakes, and franchise properties, a film about a sport that 8 years ago couldn't post a clip on YouTube, outsold nearly everything released alongside it. The revenue from races? $3.9 billion in 2025. The sponsorship portfolios, the streaming agreements, the film rights, the fashion collaborations. This is no longer a sporting organization with a media division. Formula One is a media organization that happens to hold races. Bernie Ecclestone once ran Formula One as a private club. What it is now is something closer to a cultural institution, one built almost entirely by opening a door. Which brings us to India. The Buddh International Circuit, just outside New Delhi, hosted the Indian Grand Prix in 2011, 2012, and 2013. All 3 races were won by Sebastian Vettel. All 3 drew enormous crowds, and then, over a dispute about entertainment tax, it was gone. The track has been silent for over a decade. Yet in 2025, India had 78.8 million Formula One fans, more than the entire population of France. A fan base that did not exist in any meaningful commercial sense when the last race was held there. Travel booking platform Skyscanner recorded a 189% spike in flight bookings from Indian cities to the Singapore Grand Prix weekend in 2024. Then 188% to Abu Dhabi. Indian fans are flying to watch Formula One in other countries, because Formula One is not yet in theirs. Negotiations to bring the Indian Grand Prix back are active. No date is confirmed. But the sport that was once too distant, too expensive, and too inaccessible for most of the world's second-largest country has, in the span of a few years, become something those same people are booking international flights to see. That is the story of Formula One in the digital age. Not the lap times, not the constructors' standings. The story is this. A sport discovered that the most powerful thing it could do was let people in, and the world walked through the door. Bernie Ecclestone built the machine. Liberty Media turned on the lights. Drive to Survive invited the world to watch. And now, in living rooms in Mumbai, in grandstands in Singapore, in sports bars in Los Angeles, the race is still going. Formula One. The car was never the product.
डेली हंट को सब्सक्राइब करो।